Hello and welcome to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Hartiz, and today we continue our Fantasy Files series with a look at Patrick Mahomes, arguably the most talented quarterback to ever play the glorious American pastime known as football. I get it. Tom Brady, the GOAT, best career ever. And just like if you want to, go on the LeBron James, Michael Jordan rabbit hole, the Randy Moss versus Jerry Rice, when talking about like who the best ever is something in terms of career accomplishments, I get it. Nobody can hold a freaking candle to Brady at the moment. But just like with Moss and Rice, obviously better career, but I think objectively, if each of our lives was on the line and we could throw one jump ball to the prime version of Rice or Moss, I don't know. I would take Moss in that scenario. So the GOAT conversation, is always an issue between who is the actual best talent and who actually had the best career. I'm talking about Mahomes in the light of being the best talent, just because the things we have seen him do on a football field, it doesn't stop getting more ridiculous. This is the guy that fell to 10th overall only because of concerns about how he would transition from Texas Tech's air raid offense to the NFL. The highlights he was putting on tape were so freaking absurd in college that people just assumed it couldn't be replicated at the NFL level. Well, boy, have we been wrong. I mean, we only saw him play one time in that initial 2017 season. People, that week 17 game against the Broncos was absolutely wild. Mahomes put 5 or 6 throws on tape that, were the exact reason why Reed and company felt so comfortable trading him away to Washington after pretty much the best season of Alex Smith's career, easily his best one with the Chiefs as a whole. So Mahomes was that good in his one spot start to earn that job. And then what did he do in 2018? He tosses a league high 50 scores, one rather bogus offsides call away from a Super Bowl berth. And I say bogus because I actually didn't realize this until a great follow on Twitter, Sam Schwartzstein, at Schwartzstein's, the guy that actually helped make the rules for the XFL when that was going on, not that long ago. Shame that it didn't work out, but always appreciate Sam on Twitter. But basically, Sam brought up this point just in a random Twitter thread from last January. The tackle was too far in the backfield and Ford lined up off him. Yes, he was offsides, but the tackle was also in an illegal position. Depends on who's throwing the flag to determine the three-peat. And Sam, posted a picture of it, and people, like, Ford is lining up like he normally did against an offensive tackle, but the tackle isn't on the line of scrimmage. Like, they could have reversed that call, gotten the actual offsides, and, I get it. Flap the butterfly's wings and the whole universe can change. So I won't spend too much more time on that. But 2019, Mahomes overcomes the midseason ankle injury, comes back, wins the freaking Super Bowl. 2020, obviously, as we saw, couldn't quite overcome the Bucs' ferocious pass rush after his pair of starting tackles were out of the picture. So Mahomes is truly couple injuries and offsides call away from potentially winning 3 straight Super Bowls to start his first 3 years as starter. Obviously only has one, but you know what? We're not even worried about Super Bowl potential here on this podcast. We're more worried about fantasy potential, and what all Mahomes has done in fantasy world is also work as arguably the best quarterback we have ever seen. He does actually own the highest single season just total fantasy points mark set in 2018. Lamar Jackson still has the highest mark in terms of fantasy points per game, but Mahomes isn't even far off that, people. Top 6 seasons ever in terms of fantasy points per game from a quarterback. 2019 Lamar Jackson, number 1. 2011 Aaron Rodgers, number 2. Mahomes comes in at number 3 in 2018. Then 2010 Mike Vick. 2013 Peyton Manning. Oh, look who's at 6. 2020 Patrick Mahomes again. So yes, a lot of this has been due to Mahomes' ability to just be an incredible passer, because even looking at, the last 10 years, 2011 to 2020, you'd be hard pressed to find a stat that puts him outside the top 5. PFF passing grade, he's 4th. QB rating, 1st. Big time throw rate, 2nd. Turnover worthy play rate, all the way down, tied for number 12th. Yards per attempt, 1st, and adjusted completion rate, number 3 as well. So we have Mahomes functioning as, again, just this godlike passer that we all know about. And I think the one thing that's starting to catch people by surprise to an extent is how mobile he is. And we didn't see it for a ton during the 2019 season. Coming back from that ankle injury, he just didn't really, go to that tool that he has in his box until he really needed to. Obviously, we saw that wild touchdown he had against the Titans in the AFC Championship down the stretch. But 2020 really saw for the first time at least since 2018, a healthy Mahomes running the ball to his heart's desire. I mean, career high 20.5 rushing yards per game in 2020. Also has found the end zone now 5 times in his last 20 games. So, looking at last year, there just wasn't really a way to stop Mahomes, because even if you're lucky enough to get up on the Chiefs and, force him away from just having his way with the defense, now you're getting the comeback version of him. And yes, the Buccaneers were able to silence this guy, but even looking at that game, I mean, 3rd and 14, he hits Kelsey in the hands. It gets dropped. 3rd and 5 in the first quarter, hits Tyreek Hill in the freaking helmet in the end zone. That's dropped. And then he had the most famous play of all when he threw the ball freaking horizontal to the ground, hits Byron Pringle in the face, and that falls. So the first game since 2016 that Mahomes lost by more than 8 points occurred in the last time we saw him, the Super Bowl. Even then, 2 drop touchdowns away from potentially making that another 8-point affair. So the question is, can the 2021 version of Mahomes be as great as he has been in 2018 to 2020? I think the answer is a resounding yes, people. This edition of the Chiefs offense looks even better than the last did, on paper at least. I mean, going into this year, PFF ranks this offensive line as the 7th ranked unit in the entire league. Yes, longtime tackles Eric Fisher, Mitchell Schwartz are gone. Also, yes, we have, Ravens starting tackle Orlando Brown now in the picture. Joe Thuney got signed in the offseason, which is obviously a nice upgrade in the interior. We also get Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, on some of these pronunciations. Got to work on the O-lineman. A lot of players in the National Football League to get right with the last names. He's coming back after opting out last year to heroically, help actually battle COVID on the front lines. We even got Kyle Long unretired to help provide some depth. So the Chiefs, they've gotten a little bit younger and they've gotten deeper across the offensive line compared to what they were dealing with last year. Still have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce there. Losing Sammy Watkins, isn't ideal. Yes, he was really overpaid, but he's still a quality NFL wide receiver, even if he's never going to quite live up to his standing, as a former number 4 overall pick. Still have Mecole Hardman, number 3 in the NFL in yards per target over the past 2 years. Demarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle, they're fine to be your number 3, number 4 pass game options. Throwing Clyde Edwards-Helaire potentially having a step up. And truly, people, the 2021 Chiefs offense has a chance to be the best version yet that we've seen with Mahomes under center. So takes us right to his fantasy rank. As you can probably guess, he is the overall QB1. The only guy I think that deserves to be in that conversation is Lamar Jackson. And if Mahomes wasn't showing us as much rushing upside as he has in recent history, I would be tempted to, go ahead and put Lamar over him straight up. But I just think the way it is with Mahomes, him coming off, he's coming off the 6th best season ever in terms of fantasy points per game. And he has a chance to build on that with a better offensive line and even just some positive touchdown regression. We knew it was coming down from Mahomes after 2018. He went for 8.6% of his attempts turned into touchdowns. And, we talked about this with, who had the really high rate last year. Just looking at Aaron Rodgers in the Aaron Rodgers edition of this podcast, we talked about how I hate to just say people are going to regress to regress. It's not even so much about I don't want to criticize the player. I just want to say it's hard to be that damn good back-to-back years. But in Mahomes' case, his touchdown rates have gone from 8.6 to 5.4 to 6.5. He could have a year buoyed by a great offensive line, maybe the best he's ever played behind. Still elite versions of Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, maybe a nice little 3rd-year leap from Mecole Hardman. This touchdown rate could go up again, and we could see Mahomes once again flirting with touchdowns in the high 40s and continuing to add on more rushing upside than a lot of people realize. So tier 1 quarterbacks, we have Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. And, hey, any of those guys I think have a true chance to finish as the overall QB1. Mahomes is the guy, though, that we have seen do it with the most, I think, flying colors over the past few years. And, again, for him to just be able to pair this absurd, almost never before seen passing upside with the 20 rushing yards per game and just nose for the end zone once they get close to the goal line, it's what has made Patrick Mahomes such a real life and fantasy cheat code to the game of football. So that's going to wrap up this edition of the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. Before we get out of here, just wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsor over at Manscape. Was lucky enough to get a little package from them, and it has a Manscaped t-shirt that my girlfriend is now taking the liberty of wearing around the house a lot. So, whenever you can have your girlfriend wearing a shirt that's talking about, protecting the balls and just making sure everything is right, I don't see how you can go wrong with that. So anyway, Manscape, who's the best in men's below the waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. This exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free shipping with the code PFF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use code PFF. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, everyone. I'm Ian Hartiz. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. We'll have new episodes out every single day. I hope you're enjoying training camp news. We got Bryan Edwards being compared to Randy Moss and Terrell Owens in the same freaking tweet. We got people just suddenly finding out the Bengals' offensive line isn't very good and acting like it's some new piece of information. And I still have water in my left ear from being in the ocean too long in Myrtle Beach, and I can't really hear out the side of it. So I'm going to work on that problems. I'm sure you all have some real-life problems as well. In the meantime, we'll continue to try to get better each and every day at fantasy football. So again, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, take care, everybody.